This was the largest error that I made on my trip to Cuba. I took a Leica M7 and a 35mm f2 lens, half a dozen rolls of film. Now, let me give you a bit of a backstory. I was in Cuba to shoot underwater video for other people's nature shows. So I already had 2 cases of gear, camera gear, lights, scuba gear, that were like 49 pounds. And my carry-on was maxed out too. So I brought an M7 and 1 lens. And, you know, you always hear about, well, if you could travel the world with 1 lens, what would it be? Oh, it'd be a 28 or it'd be a 35 or whatever. This is flawed. This is all flawed. And this really came to kind of bite me while I was in Cuba. So if you've seen my other videos, the one about Stewart's Law, it turns out that at the hotel that I'm staying at, there's not a lot to photograph around there, but one day for 2 nights, 2 mornings of good shooting, a biker club showed up. The largest biker club in Cuba. They were going across the country, dozens and dozens and dozens of bikers from Cuba, from Colombia, from Spain. They do this annual tour across the country, and they're staying at my hotel. And some of them would let me photograph them. And I've got a 35mm lens. So the subjects are generally in the shadow under a big tree, kind of towards the front of the hotel where their bikes are parked. And the hotel and the trees in the background are full sun. So you've got people in black leather in the shade with full sun in the background. It's a tough lighting situation. The prints were hard to print. I don't have a scanner. I don't have a neg scanner, so everything is printed in the darkroom. And I'll talk about that as I go through some of the prints. But my flaw was, man, you know, with a 35mm lens, I know it's the perfect lens. You could go around the world with it. And I know, Cartier-Bresson, he shot the whole world with a 50, and this guy did it all with this, and this guy did it all with that. And I really didn't have room for any more gear, but I'll tell you, I'll make room next time. You need a lens, a longer lens. You need a lens, I don't know, like when I had Leica, I've had 2 different 90 f2s, but I don't have them anymore. I even had a Zeiss 85 f4, which was tiny. I don't know why I sold that. I should have kept that. It would have fit anywhere. Anyways, you need to bring a portrait lens. Maybe it's an 85, maybe it's a 105, maybe it's a 135. You need a portrait lens. You need to narrow the angle of view between the subject relationship and the background. The subject wouldn't necessarily look much different. You'd have to back up. The subject wouldn't look too much different, but you could narrow the background and have better control over what is going on in the background. So that was my flaw. That is the flaw of traveling the world with 1 lens, is that you need more than 1 lens. So this shot, this is one of the bikers. Now I use the term biker because they were bikers, but we all know that some are bikers and bikers are different things. And some of these guys wouldn't be photographed, but others would. And others are old bikers that have done this trip a dozen times, 20 times. So some were more approachable than others. But here's a biker. Let me photograph him. Now, as you can see from the prints, the first print a little bit light and needs burning and dodging. So I've basically darkened the exposure, dodged a bit on the face and the vest, and burned in the sides. Now, I've taken a color photo when I can just with my phone, just so you get an idea of what is going on. But black vest, black clothes in the shade, full sun in the background. And maybe these pictures need a crop. Maybe, like, I'm trying to show them full frame so you really see what I've done. But as I've said, I've got my basic exposure. Then I dodged the face a little bit. I burned in the background. And sometimes I burned in the background too much. Like, you can see that road on the right. It might be getting just a little bit too dark as I've kind of tried to burn it in and experiment around and you know, make different prints. But I've tried to, balance it all out. This is probably the best one here, this fourth one, where I've got the balance on the dodging and the burning. It's a tough nag. It's a tough nag that's got some crazy highlights. Now with this guy, this is the basic scenario. He's polishing his bike. Now I've done a basic exposure of this shot. These are mostly shot on either Kentmere 200 or Ilford HP5. And then, again, a bit of a dodge, face, vest, and a burn. If you don't do the dodge, you'll probably be too dark after you burn because there'll be a little bit of spillover. Seems to be a little bit of spillover when I burn things in. Again, here's the straight print, and then burn and dodge. Try to make it a little bit better. Are they perfect? No. And I was only willing to use so many pieces of paper to kind of play around with these shots. But now here's one of the guys, one of the local bikers, young guy. I was grateful that they allowed me to photograph them, to be honest. It was such a great experience for me to be able to photograph them. So I really did appreciate all of their openness to it. But basic picture, dodge the blacks, burn the whites, and the corners in. Some of these guys were old. I think this guy, his bike was like push start, actually. I talked about that in one of the other videos. These are not all hardened bikers, but there were some guys that were, but they didn't get photographed. Not everyone was open to it. But these old guys were. And I don't speak any Spanish. They don't speak any English. But it was a good kind of positive experience. Just, I wish I had brought a longer lens. A 90 mil. If you're going to shoot with a Leica, I don't know, maybe you need a 90. Maybe a 75. Like a 50 would have been better than the 35. A 75 would have been better yet. I don't have one. A 90, I don't have one, but it would be better. And, it is also, it's this endless gear situation where you're always thinking, oh, should I buy more gear? I should buy more gear. So should I go out and spend like $5,000 on a 75 mil lens or a 90 mil lens? Or should I buy an off-brand one for those times when I need it? Or should I just take an SLR down with, I got lots of lenses for my SLR. Shoot a little bit longer, clean up the backgrounds, less sharpness in the background, less detail in the background. I think it would be a better portrait. This guy was great, by the way. I photographed him a couple times, but he was great. Spoke good English, really was open to letting me photograph him. I think I got a nice picture of him. Dodging him, dodging the black, and burning in the corners, and burning in the background. There we have it. I wish I would have brought a longer lens. And next time, I'm going to bring a longer lens. I might not even bring the Leicas next time. Next time, it might be an SLR. Just saying.